to order for January 28, 2014. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jeff, if you would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just remind you to silence your cell phones, that the meeting documents are on the end of the counter by Commissioner Kelly for your review. And also, if you need any listening devices, Robert in the front row would have those. And with that being said, we will start.
Routine business. Item 1 is consider a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 2 is to approve the County Commission minutes of January 21st, 2014.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Bill.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3 are bills to be paid in the amount of $539,857.97.
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the bills. Is there any questions or discussion? No. We have a motion and a second to pay the bills in the amount of $539,857.97. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 4 are reports. The auditor's account with the county treasurer as of December 31st, 2014 has been received and is placed on file in the auditor's office. Item 5 is personnel action. A is a motion to approve the routine personnel actions.
We have a motion for routine actions.
I'll move routine action.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions for Jen? Seeing none, all those in favor of routine actions? Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Same sign. Motion passes unanimously for routine actions.
Item B is consider a motion for special personnel action to approve the hire of Jason Reeves, project engineer for the Highway Department as of February 10th, 2014, starting at the salary of $2,345.60 biweekly, pay grade 19, step 11. Jenny Addix.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jen Oddix from Human Resources. I know you've received a briefing memo and have had discussion on this issue. This is for the hire of a project engineer in the Highway Department. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Additionally, the Highway Superintendent, DJ Boothie, is here, and he will also address any issues we have.
Are there any questions for Jen or DJ from Highway? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the special action on hiring for the Highway Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
There are no applications for abatement today. The next item is notice and requests. Item A is to authorize the county auditor to publish a notice to bidders for 19 Glock Model 22 handguns minus trade-in, and to declare 3 Glock 9mm pistols and 16 Glock 40 S&W pistols as surplus for the purpose of trade-in. Linda Young.
Commissioners, Linda Young, Emergency Manager, to be willing to answer any questions regarding the request for bids for these items.
Any questions for Lynn?
So we've had this conversation before, but we're trading in our 9mm for 40 calibers, correct?
Correct.
All right.
And the gist of it is they get used mostly for training. We try not to actually engage the public, but there's a possibility. And excuse me, they are getting to a point where it costs more to do the upgrades for the sites and all the other stuff than what it does to trade them in and just buy a new one with a warranty. So it's, if we had this deal in other areas, you'd take it too.
Great.
Commissioner Kelly?
So, Lynn, are these basically for the reserves?
Yep, these are for the police reserve.
Why are the city's going from 40s back to 9s?
Yeah.
And are these Smith & Wesson? What's the
Glocks.
S&W?
They're Glocks, 9mm, or excuse me, 940
What's
calibers.
S&W mean?
Excuse me?
S&W that's in here.
Yep.
What's that mean?
Go ahead, Commissioner. We basically, when we work for several different law enforcement agencies, whether it's the city, the county, the highway patrol, currently The sheriff is staying with 40 calibers. We use their training officers during part of this process. We're just staying with 40 calibers. It's a discussion we've had internally. Every once in a while, we do come up with an individual that has a smaller hand, doesn't handle the recoil. We may issue them a 9mm like the city's doing, but we're electing to stay with the 40 caliber, similar to the sheriff's office.
But I think it is a Smith & Wesson, but I
Yes.
think it's Glock, and I think they just licensed Smith & Wesson to build it, right?
Correct.
All right.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lynn? Any other comments? Look for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to authorize the county to publish notice of bids for 19 Glocks. 19 Glocks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item B is to authorize the county auditor to publish a notice to bidders for Minnehaha County Highway Department annual materials letting. DJ Boothby.
Good morning, Commissioners. DJ Boothby, Highway Superintendent. We have today before you a request to publish a notice to bidders for the materials letting. We have put a lot of effort towards preparing this bid package this year and basically revamping it 100% from what we've done in the past. We have 16 proposals altogether as part of the materials letting, and that does not account for all the materials that we will be using throughout the year. We will also be purchasing several items off of the state bid and the city's bids for various items. Those are listed in your briefing memo. And then also, we are working with some other counties to purchase some additional items. So asphalt is probably our biggest item. We spend $1 million on purchase of asphalt, and we've tried to set it up with multiple bidding opportunities this year to be able to get the best price for the county. And we've asked other counties if they want to be part of our materials letting this year. So far, nobody is wanting to participate in the bidding of it, but once we award it, there may be some counties that contact the vendor that is successful to be able to purchase off of our contract. If you have any questions, I can answer them now. Otherwise, I'll request your authorization to publish a notice of bidders.
Commissioner Bennigan?
DJ, when you have a county that comes in after the bid award, and we've got some concerns about inventory, if we're going to use it all or not use it all, is there going to be any hassles with us divvying that inventory up?
No, there's not. We don't necessarily have the authority to allow the permission for another agency to purchase off of our bid price. When we've had this discussion before with the City of Sioux Falls contracts, where they have felt uncomfortable and they've worked with the vendor to kind of let them know their feelings on it. But legally, we don't really have an authority to allow or disallow the purchase of any materials off of our contracts. They're simply using our contract bid prices and getting that price through the vendor. So it's up to the vendor ultimately whether they allow the other county or state or other government agency to purchase off of our contract price.
So they're using it as a negotiation tool and not coming through us to buy the inventory, correct? Okay.
Yeah. And as far as the inventory or the amount of materials available, we don't necessarily have a big concern. Our quantities are small enough that we're not coming up to the point where we're maximizing the amount of product available at the asphalt plants. They have plenty of mix available for anybody that is able to purchase. They'll be able to purchase regardless of whether or not we're getting our 20,000 tons. So I think we're at 20,000 tons this year. If we were wanting to get maybe 100,000 tons, then maybe it would be a different story. But 20,000 tons, either vendor in Sioux Falls is going to be able to provide that.
Okay.
Commissioner Backus?
DJ, I guess one of the questions I have, we just had, for example, Linda Young up there, who used to be emergency management down in Lincoln County. I saw Jim Schmidt yesterday. We should maybe reach out to Lincoln County and specifically call them and ask if they're interested in cooperating. We have a lot of different mutual agreements between our two counties to go and try to collaborate. This is another example. I know we asked you to do it last year. We ask you to do it every year. maybe they will reciprocate, maybe they'll be interested 1 year, but, we should always reach out and at least make a telephone call.
Right, yep, and I've reached out to Steve Williams, the highway superintendent down there, and so if they want to purchase off of our contract price, they'll certainly be able to do that. He indicated that he was not interested in being part of the actual bid, and so we will definitely reach out after our bid is awarded for anybody that wants to purchase off of it.
Okay. Don't get it.
Commissioner Kelly?
Does it make for a stronger bid if you got a higher quantity?
I believe so.
So I don't understand why Lincoln County, which has talked to us several
I
times,
know about doing this.
now doesn't get into it. I don't know if they haven't already let their bids yet.
No, we're pretty early. There might be some others that are advertised, but I don't think anybody has awarded anything yet. We're one of the first counties this year that are out there, so they're not. They haven't awarded anything yet.
Commissioner?
DJ, 2 years ago, we gave the contract to one vendor and then wound up buying considerable quantities from the other vendor because of proximity to the operation. Then last year, we gave it to one vendor and declined to buy any from the nearest vendor. Now you tell me that we're revising this whole thing again here. What is the plan this year?
Well, this year, the way that we have the proposal form set up, we have 2 bid schedules, and we will be awarding one of those 2 bid schedules. The first bid schedule is for 100% normal recycled asphalt, using recycled asphalt for the aggregates, and both vendors can provide that. That's a standard asphalt mix. The second bid schedule has about 25% of the mix is a recycled asphalt shingle aggregate mix, and only one of the local vendors can provide that mix. And so they have a little bit of a cost advantage, but it's only on 25% of the mix, and so it's not a significant amount enough for the bid to 100% go that way. If the competitors bid for 100% recycled asphalt mix is low enough, they'll be able to bid lower than the asphalt shingle mix, if that's not too confusing.
It's a little confusing. So are you saying that only one of the vendors can offer this second type of stuff? So in effect, you're writing a contract just for that one vendor?
I would argue that we're not. If we were allowing a higher percentage of it, I would say yes, that would be the case. But only 5,000 tons of it is allowed, and so we're trying to make that amount small enough to be able to purchase a cheaper product, but not so much that we're only allowing one bidder to bid on the contract.
Any other questions? I have a couple questions.
25
Commissioner Kelly?
25% is a lot of, that's a pretty sizable amount, I would think.
Yeah, on a $1 million purchase, if that product can be maybe $3 cheaper per ton, we're looking at $15,000 difference. And so for a $1 million contract, $15,000 could very easily be made up by the competitor.
Just a couple questions. Is there a project list on the website, or does that go with the bid, or do they know what projects they're bidding on or what area they're bidding on? I know we had some concerns before about transportation travel.
For the asphalt specifically, we did not break down the county in certain areas.
Okay.
I personally believe that that's probably the best way to do it, but it is extremely confusing and I think could lead to a higher price ultimately. And it would be confusing for everybody involved to purchase that way. And so the way that we've done it is basically just supplying the asphalt product depending on what bid schedule we award, and we will travel to either location.
Okay. I have one more question. Just questioning about the recycled asphalt, because I thought we'd had a conversation last year about that it wasn't a very good product. And so maybe I remember incorrectly, that recycled was not.
The first time that we used the asphalt shingle product, it was not a good product. The time that was first used, there was no specification written, and the vendor had given it to us unbeknownst to us. And and the product that they supplied, like I said, it didn't have a specification. They were just basically testing it out. Not a good product. In the years since, there has been a lot of work to develop a specification, develop a standard. We tested it last year. It worked very good for us. The operators on the paving crew could hardly notice a difference, and so it's come a long ways in the last few years, and we're very open to using it.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Barth?
DJ, with a single provider last year, did you wind up having any slowdown in operations waiting delivery of product?
I would say that there's a slowdown and there's an increase in travel costs too, depending on where we're hauling it to. I would love to be able to go purchase from multiple sites.
Well, that's what we did 2 years ago, though.
That's what we did multiple times up until, I think, 2 years ago. And I don't think that's legal to be awarding multiple contracts off of a single bid.
Commissioner Kelly?
If the state's attorney's office would allow me to do that, we would definitely be interested.
Are you taking transportation? We pick it up at the site, right?
We do.
We haul it.
We do.
So are you taking that into account on your calculations? Because I
Again, no,
imagine
this
that's
is-
getting more and more.
This proposal form is strictly for the purchase of the material. It does not take into account any transportation costs.
But
And
we have to, don't we? I mean, if we got most of the projects on the west side and we get, or the other way around, and you get a,
yeah, like I said earlier, personally, I think that would by far be the best way to do it, because we would be able to have the total cost the lowest for the county. It just so happens that that makes the contract very confusing, and we worry that it would be a higher cost overall for our asphalt, because these vendors, they don't want to play a game where it's a really confusing contract that we're awarding to multiple vendors based off of a location. They just want a simple contract to supply asphalt.
I would think that on a $2 or $3 million contract, that confusing is not an issue. I mean, those guys ought to be able to figure it out, but.
Any other questions for DJ? I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would ask
Yeah.
State's Attorney if they have any thoughts on this.
Sure. I'll add to this the transportation issue that we talked about before. Opening up the transportation issue as to who is supplying asphalt for a particular project. The problem with that is when you get into those specifications beforehand where it's unpredictable as to what the transportation costs would be and which location is closer or has less transportation costs on a particular basis, we found that the award of basically what it was is two separate contracts. Location, frankly, it opens up us to risk of litigation. So I would advise against doing that. That's the only thing I would add.
And furthermore, Kirsten, we did have a vendor contact us and basically threaten litigation.
So,
Any other questions?
DJ, if you just clarify for me, how many vendors will this be going out to, and how many bids do you expect to get?
We'll expect to see 2 bids.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the bid letting for Minnehaha County Highway Department annual material bid letting. All those in favor?
Madam Chair,
Oh,
if I might just
Yep.
comment on it. You know, we did it one way 2 years ago. We did it a different way last year. Now we're planning on doing it another different way. I'm not going to support it yet.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Item C, under notices and requests, a notice from the Big Sioux Ducks Unlimited of an intent to conduct a fundraising raffle on February 22nd, 2014 at the Crooks Community Center has been received. There are no planning and zoning notices, and there are no petition for compromise of lien. The next item is an opportunity for public comment.
This is a time when anyone can speak on an item that is not on the agenda. If there's anyone that would like to speak at this time, they can come to the microphone and identify themselves. And seeing none, we will move on.
Regular business, item 10, presentation of Minnehaha County Rural Fire and Ambulance 2013 year-end report. Lynn DeYoung.
Excuse me. Commissioners, Lindy Young, Emergency Management. Today I'm just going to give you a quick year-end report. on some of the volunteer services in Minnehaha County. I do have representatives from the rural ambulance here, and I'll bring them up at the right time, and they'll give you an update on their activities in the year. And I did have a representative from the rural fire scheduled, but he ran into a work emergency, so he wasn't able to attend. So I'll try to, off memory, cover some of their things. So, as you know, Minnehaha County has several different volunteer agencies in the county and outside the county. Most of them, or some of them, are in your rural communities, the rural fire departments and the rural ambulances. Others, Minnehaha County does host a robust volunteer program over in my office. A couple of those are, those include a search and rescue and a police reserve. Some of our highlights through the last year is the search and rescue team, comprised of 25 members, had a total of 3,612 volunteer hours that they provided the county, over 216 runs. And the police reserve had a total of 7,676 hours that they provided Minnehaha County and the agencies within Minnehaha County. That included, 61 requests for special events for the police reserve, along with DUI checkpoints and other special events. I just want to show you a couple pictures here. This is a picture down. One of the highlights or large events this year was the Minnehaha County Search and Rescue and Dive Team worked hand in hand with representatives from Sioux Falls Fire Rescue on a dive recovery earlier this spring down at the falls, and this is just a picture of those folks getting ready to do that. The other picture that this is, as you know, we work with the police reserve and the rescue squad, work hand in hand with law enforcement agencies during some of their events. This is an event that the Highway Patrol led, which is a DWI checkpoint within our community, and we bring along different services including traffic control, lighting, and those. So that would be a picture depicting this event, and this event was on Labor Day weekend here in Minnehaha County. Other significant events that the volunteers under the Emergency Management Office did is they did assist a body recovery out in McCook County in a water event, and they also participated in a county-wide exercise in Lyons on the 17th of July. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the Minnehaha County volunteer component that is housed in my office, if you have any at this point.
Any questions for Lynn?
Okay, seeing none, I'll just move right into the rural fire. As you know, Minnehaha County has 13 rural fire departments within the county that respond to all areas of the county for fire and other emergency needs. On the should go through within your packet, and we'll try to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so there's the departments, the fire departments listed within Minnehaha County, and the number of runs that they made last calendar year. Those numbers were provided by Metro Communications. They indicate that last year approximately 1,903 emergency calls for services were handled by your rural fire departments. They all consist of volunteers within Minnehaha County that are highly trained. In the last year, Minnehaha County has held several certified firefighter classes, and I forget the exact numbers, but I think about 30 or 40%, maybe as high as 50% of the trained and certified volunteer firefighters come out of Minnehaha County throughout the entire state, and that's as a result of the fact that we have a robust training system, a robust training capability, and our firefighters take that system and those resources seriously, and they get themselves trained, and that's a great benefit for the community. The rural fire departments also, in conjunction with emergency management, the sheriff's office and other rural ambulances also held a large training exercise on July 17th. That was at the Lyons CHS elevator complex. That was attended by over 150 responders within Minnehaha County. on a 3-hour evening. They came in and got some training during the day and then held an exercise in the evening, and that was a large success. Some of the other things that the rural fire departments are working on include in 2016 we will be the host of the State Fire School. We are currently making plans to make that event a quality training event within the state of South Dakota. And then they continue to apply for grants from the federal government and other agencies to enhance their service that they provide to the citizens of Minnehaha County. So I know that's a little short, but like I said, Mike Harstead, who is the Rural Fire Chief President, had a work emergency arrive today. So I'd try to answer any questions on the rural fire departments, if there are any.
Commissioner Barth?
Lynn, you know, in the ambulance thing there, it shows rural metro. That's the answering in the rural area by rural metro, not the city of Sioux Falls, right?
Correct.
But Wayne Township contracts with the city to do fire in that rural part of the county. Those stats aren't on this. It doesn't show any calls by the Sioux Falls Fire to the rural area.
And if you want that number, I'm sure that Matt Tooley with Metro Communications can break those numbers down and we can get those for you.
Perhaps in the future, that's
Yep.
okay. Thanks.
Sir.
Any other questions for Lynn? I think you want to move on to ambulance?
Yep, and Tim Even from the Rural Ambulance Association is the president, and he'll come up and just give their highlights and talk about call numbers for their agencies also. So I'll leave the call number sheet up.
All right.
Morning. Like Lynn said, I'm Tim Even with the Humboldt Fire and Ambulance Service. I guess talking about call numbers, for 2013 we were down just a little bit. I'm speaking for Humboldt now, and we're down just a little bit. 2012 we did set a record for ambulance calls that we did run on. Not a record we want to beat. We'll see what 2014 has to bring. We're off to kind of a busy start already. Like Lynn said, we also participated in the training exercise at Lyons at Central Farmers Elevator. Very good training for what they put together for us, fire and ambulance. They did a really good job. It was excellent training. Right now, I guess, I believe you folks okayed some funding for some EMT training coming up this year. Greatly appreciated. That's not only for ambulance services, that is also for fire departments, for their rescue squads. That helps out there because they also have to maintain their state or national EMT accreditation. That, I guess, also was going towards for trying to get some new volunteers for our ambulance services. Currently, it takes about 150 hours worth of classroom time to become a volunteer. So that, along with your extra hours that are spent either training or meetings, as long as you're going on calls and whatnot, it eats up a bunch of our time. And the funding that we get from you folks, I guess, helps out on will help out with that. But also your funding that you give the ambulance services for our paid paramedics, because of our daytime staffing numbers are incredibly low. We still run a volunteer alongside of our paramedics, working good for us. Like I said, a lot of the people in our communities pick up and head into Sioux Falls during the day for work, so our volunteers numbers during the day are quite low. But like I said, where we got it set up right now with funding from you folks and also from the townships, we're looking, we're getting by, put it that way. But our call volume continues to increase, so just to inform you of that.
Commissioner.
Tim, can you tell us a little bit about the struggles of getting enough volunteers to support your system?
Well, I guess when I joined, and that's been quite some time ago now, 20 years I guess it's been, there was more jobs in the local community, so it was a little easier to find some individuals that were interested in possibly doing this. Now I I don't see the volunteerism that there used to be. And like I said, people with families and stuff, everything takes a priority, and it's at times a little tough to get people excited to, like you say, pay, I think it's $800 to $1,000 for taking the EMT class, which this funding will help, but also to give the kind of time that it takes to not only take the course, but you keep up on your hours and your training to be proficient.
If I can follow up, what percentage of the cost is paid for between the county and the local entity?
Right now, I think that's being worked out. Lynn may have a better grasp on that.
Commissioners, the funding that you approved last year for rural recertification and first-time certification is different. For recertification, you thought it was important, excuse me, that 100% of that be paid for by the county. So, and that we just went through that this last weekend with one group, and we'll be going through another group here this weekend. But 100% of the recertification, so $60 is paid for by the county for those that choose. Of the certification, you thought that both the department and a person should have some skin in it. So what we are doing is, I choose to take a volunteer EMT class. I put the whole 100% up at the beginning. Once I pass, the county will reimburse that person 25% of the total. The department will come the other 25%, and then the individual will have the third 25%. So now we have 75%. And after 1 year, then we will reimburse the last 25% of that. So the total funding is 50% county, 25% department, and 25% individual.
Any other questions, Dave?
Can I follow up with that?
Yeah.
Do you think it would make a difference if there wasn't any out-of-pocket cost to the volunteer?
I don't know. I'm a firm believer of having some skin in the game. I guess our department in the past maybe decided to help out a little more than we should have. And without having much money invested, it's pretty easy for an individual to say, yeah, it's not for me, and walk away. We were left holding the bag on a couple of them that, we thought it was a sure thing, and it turned out it wasn't. So if they've got some money invested, I believe that is critical.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kelly?
Are the fire department's first responders on a lot of the calls?
Typically, yes. Speaking for Humboldt again, like many times we run to Hartford. Their fire and rescue squad is on scene. They're EMTs as well. So having someone there as quick as you can is very important to gain patient information and see what type of call we have unfolding.
And then you have full-time EMTs during the day?
Paramedics.
Paramedics, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But they have to travel with two, so they're going to pick up a volunteer.
Right. State requires that we have at least 2 EMT basics on a call.
And when your paramedic's out on a call, who's your backup then?
Depending on where we're located, it could be Salem for us, it could be Parker, or it could be rural metro. And like I said here, not too long ago with our large accident on the interstate, we worked with Montrose, Salem, rural metro, and Humboldt as well. I guess all on the one scene. So, you get an interesting mix at times, but it works pretty good with the mutual aid setup we do have.
Does the Highway Patrol work with you on off interstate incidents at all?
Yeah. Actually, it was just a couple days after that big crash on the interstate. Yeah, they were out helping out on a call. I guess that was just into Turner County.
And do those guys carry defibrillators in their cars?
Highway Patrol, I'm unaware. I know many of the deputy sheriffs do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to weigh in if you're done, just to say that the proposal for that funding that the emergency management training came from was Lynn's idea, and I applaud him for putting that all together and approaching the commission with what turned out to be, I think, a very good idea. We've got, I think sometimes we don't realize the importance of the volunteer fire department and the ambulance that's out there until we have a fire or we have an emergency in our house and they come. And it's easy to forget that if we didn't have that volunteer base, who's going to be there to respond to those emergencies or those fires in the middle of the night, the county would be paying for a fire department rurally if we didn't have volunteers. And so I think, we need to applaud all the volunteers that have given up a significant amount of time. And we're just doing a small portion by helping to provide some training funds for them. And I thank you, Lynn, for putting that all together for us to look at. Are there any other comments or questions about the presentation? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thanks for your time.
Yeah. Anything else?
Commissioners, just one more thing. I do want to show on your graph here, in 2013, you see on the rural fire side, they had about 1,900 calls. In 2012, they had around 2,400 calls. So the difference in 2012 between 2013 is just a couple things. Number one, in 2012, if you remember, there was a drought. So you put on a burn ban in July, but during that whole span, they had a lot more calls because it was dry and people were burning their groves down. So that accounted for a bunch. The other one, our most busiest department is Brandon at 439 calls last year. Previous to that, they were over 500 calls, but they changed their response to some of these medical emergencies so that it was easier on their volunteers. And I think as departments start getting and climbing up towards those numbers, not only on the fire department side, you'll see some different challenges that they have with volunteers staffing their stations and everything. So just wanted to keep you aware of that. And then other, Minnehaha County is not unique on the ambulance side. We have our ambulances staffed during the day with volunteers. They also do very similar things in other counties. McCook County has an ambulance staffed 24 hours a day. It's a subsidized ambulance. Moody County, Lincoln County pays funds similar to you guys to the Lennox ambulance, and Canton ambulance works out a different deal, but it's not a unique situation that we're in. It's as a result of training, time away from jobs and everything. It's just kind of driven us to that, along with other demographic changes as the population changes and gets older. Some of these things take more requirements and more time from their volunteers. So.
Commissioner Barth?
Lynn's comments reminded me of, I was in Hartford and met a longtime ambulance, a fire volunteer. And he said back when he joined, they had 50 calls a year. Now they have 240. That means they're going almost every day. And in Brandon, they're going, 1.5 times a day. I mean, think about the idea of leaving your job 1.5 times a day to go to some place, and when you're done putting out the fire, you still have to clean the equipment and all that kind of stuff. And going to these fire and ambulance groups, you really see the commitment people have. They're not going to rescue somebody they don't know. They're going to go get Aunt Gladys or Cousin Pete, and many of them have been on very tragic calls. But we sure need those volunteers.
Seeing nothing else, thank you, Lynn, for your presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 11 is to authorize the chairman to sign amendment number 1 in the amount of $24,555.93 to the agreement with Alteg Engineering and the South Dakota Department of Transportation for Minnehaha County Sign Replacement Program. Shannon Schultz.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shannon Schultz, Senior Highway Project Engineer for the Highway Department. This agenda item before you is frankly a formality. It's the DOT contract. It's 100% funded by the DOT. But since it's in our county and we have an agreement, the DOT is requesting your concurrence with the amendment change. The amendment change is basically centered on the addition of green street signs. And so there's about 1,400 locations. That equates to 2,400 potentially individual designs to be put into the plans for replacement. To summarize the project, 6 of the 23 townships have been surveyed. The entire west side of the county should be surveyed by the end of February. And then when the weather improves, they will start attacking our county paved roads. The reason they're waiting for that is they need to actually topographically survey more ground stuff. So they have to have snow off the ditches. So in essence, that is the request for the change to
Make
the
a
amendment.
motion to authorize the chair to sign this agreement.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions or comments? I'm just wondering, Shannon, are they replacing the green signs just because of lack of reflectability because of the age?
To tell you the truth, Commissioner Heiberger, it's a font change.
It's a font change.
The font that is out there now is no longer MUTCD compliant. Whether or not they're reflective, I think it's kind of beside the point. This is the font change that's driving the bus on this one.
Okay. And
Sounds
this is
like a
state funds.
very expensive lawyer in Washington convinced somebody
I'm
that they
very
needed
thankful
new
that
signs.
it's 100% funded by the DOT. So
Yes, I am thankful they're paying for it and not us. I have a motion and a second to authorize the chairman to sign the amendment to the amount of $27,550.93. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Item 12, consider a motion to approve the professional services agreement between Minnehaha County and Infrastructure Design Group in the amount of $54,850 for acquisition of right-of-way on Highway 109. Shannon Schultz.
good morning again. So this is a contract to basically have help acquiring right-of-way on 4.5 miles of roadway. If you look at the 33 plats that will be required, that amounts to something over $1,500 a plat. The reason for that is the consultant is actually conducting their own landowner negotiations, which can be very time-consuming. Had we not included in the landowner negotiations, the cost would have been around $960 a plat, which is very reasonable to have a professional land surveyor sign and certify a plat. So that is the program. Again, this is 4.5 miles on Highway 109 between Highways 114 and 104. We have currently less than 100 feet, and it is a standard across the country to have 100 feet of right-of-way in secondary and county highways, and so we are trying to get to that standard of 100 foot of right-of-way width throughout the county. However, it will take some time.
Any questions for Shannon? Could entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the professional services agreement between Minnehaha County and Infrastructure Design Group in the amount of $54,850. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Item 13 is consider a motion to approve professional services agreement between Minnehaha County and Banner Associates in the amount of $76,100 for final design and construction administration of Project 50-143-120 structure replacement. Shannon Schultz.
Thank you again. So this structure is located on Highway 126, about 2 miles northwest of Crooks over Willow Creek. And there's been a TSNL study done, and that TSNL study recommends a triple barrel 12 by 8 concrete box culvert at an estimated cost of $400,000. So the $76,100 is to cover final design, so take the TSNL to plans for bidding, and it also includes about 10 to 12 weeks of construction administration to oversee the construction of the project when it's built.
Any questions for Shannon on this project? Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the professional services agreement between Minnehaha County and Banner Associates in the amount of $76,100 for final design and construction. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Item 14 is to authorize the chairman to sign the West Corridor Programmatic Agreement with Federal Highway Administration, South Dakota Department of Transportation, and the City of Sioux Falls. Shannon Austin.
Good morning, Shannon.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shannon Austin with the City of Sioux Falls Public Works Office. Before you, you have our programmatic agreement for the West Corridor. And for those of you folks that haven't been around long enough to know what the West Corridor is basically a sister corridor on the west side of the city from the T interchange going to the west on Highway 106 and then meandering all the way up to Interstate 90. This was a corridor that the Metropolitan Planning Organization studied back in the 90s to determine to satisfy and to accommodate the growth of the City of Sioux Falls and the surrounding areas. We needed a regional arterial system that would parallel Interstate 229 as well as Interstate 29. So back in 2002, we embarked on the West Corridor Environmental Assessment and Corridor Study. This was right after the East Side Corridor had been approved by the Metropolitan Planning Organization as well as the Federal Highway Administration. In 2002, again, we started and proceeded to identify alignments as well as public meetings. On the screen, there is a black dashed line was the original alignment. Yep, that one. Yep. Okay, thank you. The original alignment was the dashed black line, and as you can see, it stays on 106 on the south end, but then as it goes north, it kind of meanders over about a half a mile to the west of the TLS road, and that was a result of the public input we had to minimize properties that were adjacent to the Ellis Road. As it got north of 12th Street, it went over the Skunk Creek Basin, which was a very, very large bridge, and then it meandered back up to the La Mesa Sertoma intersection or interstate interchange at Interstate 90. Throughout the remaining or the upcoming years, then from 2002, basically all the way to 2008, we had public meetings trying to get support for this alignment. FEMA had updated the flood control map as well as the floodway boundaries and floodplain boundaries, so that structure to the north of 12th Street went from not very small, it was about a 700-foot structure to almost doubling in length. And so that structure really hindered our alignment on that black dashed line. We came back in 2008 and 9 then and refined that alignment based on public comment as well, and got to the red line alignment, which basically put us back on the existing T. Ellis corridor. We minimized our original corridor width was 200 feet, just similar to the east side corridor. Again, trying to limit the impacts to the adjacent property owners. We went from 200 feet to a 100-foot corridor and tried to really just build an arterial street that would accommodate the future growth. So throughout this entire process, we were required through the environmental assessment to perform archaeological surveys on all the adjacent properties to the corridor. So in 2010, when we came back with the revised alignment with the 100-foot right-of-way as well as staying on the current TLS alignment, there was only one property owner out of the approximately 180 property owners that would not allow us to obtain permission to go on his property to look for artifacts. His property, which is right north of 12th Street and south of Madison, or right in that Madison and Ellis Road area, he actually has told us that he has artifacts, but yet won't let us on his property to look at them and document them. So this programmatic agreement was prepared by Federal Highway Administration and the State Historical Office of Preservation, Historical Preservation Office, to not allow one property owner to hold us hostage on the process. So this agreement is mainly with SHPO and Federal Highway, with the state of South Dakota and the city of Sioux Falls as invited signatories, which means we have a responsibility to, when and if we ever do get the permission to obtain their archaeological survey on his property, we have to adhere to the federal standards to make sure we protect and preserve those historical artifacts. Minnehaha County, Lincoln County, the Urbanized Development Commission, and the City of T are invited as concurring partners to sign the agreement, and all that commits you to is just supporting the project. So with that today, I'm here to answer any questions, but would ask for your support to sign the agreement.
Any questions for Shannon? Commissioner Benega?
Shannon, with my former experience, it seems like that every time FEMA shows up, everything goes to pot.
Yes.
Including the floodplain issues and everything else. If they come again before this thing is agreed to, are we going to have to start and modify this thing again?
No, and the main reason, excellent question, is mainly because we are staying on the existing T. Ellis alignment for the most part. We are protecting the community of Ellis, but in the area that they have adjusted the floodway and floodplain, we are on the existing alignment of the Ellis Road. So basically, we're not impacting and hindering the floodway at all, because we're just increasing the width of the bridge and building right where it's at. That's what the story is today.
Commissioner Barth?
Shannon, I know 10 years ago that there was a study done of mortuary features of Minnehaha County, which went after Native American burial grounds and stuff. And I also remember that folks that declined access by our ordinance were not allowed to have any kind of building permits until they allowed access. And is that the same for the city, do you know? And have you looked at those, that report by chance?
I know we hired Augustana Archaeological Society to do the survey, and I know they have reviewed those documents. The city of Sioux Falls, typically, if we know about them, we do the archaeological surveys before we do construction. So I'm sure that that's probably the same situation. A lot of folks, though, they don't know they have them, so that's always
right. Well, the ones that decline, to allow an inspection, I think, need to be refrained from doing anything.
Any other comments? Well, several of us sit on the MPO or have sat on the MPO, and so this is not a new project to us. We've been well aware with, Shannon's been keeping us up to date with what's been going on this project. So,
and it will be on our agenda for Thursday on the rescheduled UDC meeting.
Commissioner Peckus.
Well, it's just a finer point, but Maurice Williams, I remember, invited the Black Hills Institute to go poking around his property, and they found a nice big T-Rex sitting in the side of the hill there. And if this guy knows he has archaeological stuff in there, Maurice Williams got about $8 million for that T-Rex. So, as the Board of Adjustment, if he has valuable archaeological, we can go in there and we can do a nice little assessment. So we can get access if we have to do taxation. But ultimately, I think it's best if this person works with us.
Yeah.
Minnehaha County is unique. I remember when we were building the welfare center over here, Minnehaha County Human Services, and we were working with the city. We had people come out of the woodwork saying we have to save the historic rec center. And that thing was built back in the 60s. So we have a lot of radical historical preservationists in Minnehaha County. And so, we have to work with these folks too. But, you have to be careful about that. So you can't just be the cog in the wheel, or the monkey wrench in the system. So.
Absolutely.
Any additional comments or questions?
I'd make a motion to authorize the chair to sign this agreement.
I have a motion and a second to authorize the chairman to sign the West Corridor Programmatic Agreement with the Federal Highway Administration, South Dakota Department of Transportation, and the City of Sioux Falls. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Shannon.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
In regards to Commissioner Peckus's comments, I've already had people tell me they would take a petition out to save this building if it was ever under threat.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, we'll just give it to them.
$1.
Funny. Good one, Dick. That's great.
All right, we'll move on.
Item number 15 is consider a motion to donate Zamboni blades, and fuel tanks, cooling system, compressor racks, pump skids, glycol pumps, condenser system, and associated fixtures and equipment related to the cooling system, and plexiglass from dasher boards, Exhibit A, to the ice rink lease dated September 1st, 2010, to the Sioux Falls Youth Hockey Association. Ken McFarland.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, for a number of years, the county has paid for and operated a ice sheet out at the Expo building that was originally purchased by through the use of some bond proceeds that we did. It's hard to imagine that we are approaching this year our last payment, and that according to the debt schedule, on that sheet of ice, which is really, and that whole equipment, which is due to be made later on this year. During that time period, the Fair Association has had a working agreement with the Sioux Falls Youth Hockey Association for rental of that ice sheet, outlining some of the terms and the conditions of that use. And the Youth Hockey Association has also, and we've detailed that in your report, has also paid for a number of maintenance items to keep that ice sheet up and operational, both to the Zamboni, to the compressor system, making repairs and maintenance, and all of that is outlined for you in our memorandum to you. As I understand, and that with the ice sheet will be reinstalled one last time, and that up through probably the middle of March, I believe, and that March 2nd, and that for use as hockey as soon as we get done with wrapping up the farm show. And that ice sheet, once it's taken back out in March, there are no plans to put that back in again. And that, especially with the youth hockey's fundraising and building project on the line. So what we have before you today is in recognition of the lease and some of the items that the Youth Hockey Association has contributed to on the operation of that grounds, we are asking you to declare as surplus and donate the Zamboni blades and fuel tanks, the cooling system, the compressor racks, the pump skids, the glycol pumps, the condenser systems, and those associated features and equipment related to the cooling system, and the plexiglass from the dasher boards, which are all included in your, as Exhibit A in the documents that you have. And we're asking that you make that, declare it as surplus for purposes of donation to the Sioux Falls Youth Hockey Association, which is a qualified 501c3 organization that you're statutorily allowed to make such a donation to of county property. The one caveat on this, I will remind you, is that it does require a unanimous vote of the commission to make this effective. I have with me as well Vince Jones, who represents the Youth Hockey Association, and he is here to answer any questions that you might have of him. But after a review of the documents and the lease agreements, and in recognition that after March we will no longer be having ice in the Expo building, we would ask that we would recommend that you approve the donation to donate the property.
Are there any questions for Ken or Mr. Jones regarding the donation of the ice equipment? Don't see any.
I move for approval.
A motion and a second, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, and the Hockey Association will be moving to a new venue, and now they have a few new old things to put in their new building. So, thank you. Yep.
Sorry to make you sit here.
Yeah.
Item number 16 is to authorize the chairman to sign an agreement for inmate health care and detoxification services between Minnehaha County and Armor Correctional Health Care Services. Ken McFarland.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's been a long journey. You'll remember back on January 14th, the Commission approved a recommendation that came from the Review and Contract Review Committee to award the new inmate medical detox contract to Armor Correctional Health Care out of Miami, Florida. At that time, you also authorized staff to enter into negotiations to prepare the final contract document for your approval and signature, and that process has been completed, and we are here today to ask you to have the chairman to sign this new contract. The contract really consists of four main documents that you have in your packets. The one is the cover agreement entitled the Healthcare Services Agreement between Armor Correctional Health Services and Minnehaha County, and this is the document that will be signed by the chairman and by Armor. There are a number of exhibits that are incorporated into this contract. Exhibit A is Armor's original proposal that is dated Friday, December 6, 2013, that was submitted in response to the county's request for proposals and is specifically incorporated as a part of the contract. Exhibit B, and this is the one that I'm sure most of you are interested in, and that this is the projected budget that has been prepared by Armor for both the inmate health and residential detox services for the 10 months remaining in 2014 and all of 2015 and 2016. And then, as if we didn't have enough paper attached to this particular contract, the contract also includes what we call Exhibit C, which was the request for proposals that the county originally sent out for services for both inmate health care and for detox. And this is important, too, because part of that Exhibit C outlines where all the applicable statutory provisions are for the residential detox program and administrative rules associated with that program. For your review, of course, we've only given you the main contract attachment and Exhibit B. Before I go any further, I do want to recognize some folks. First off, the county's interview committee that really put in a lot of hard work on this particular contract. And that would be Sheriff Mike Milstead, the Assistant Sheriff or the Chief Deputy Michelle Boyd, the Warden Jeff Gromer, Director of Human Services Carol Muller. I was on that review committee, and I want to thank Kirsten as well for his input on this contract. And in particular, I also want to extend a thanks to Rick Morse. He's been our consultant both in the preparation of the contract and in putting together the RFP, and he has provided invaluable assistance as we transition. In addition, in case you have some questions once we get done here, we do have some folks from Armor that are in the audience and WestCare. We have Linda Owens, Don Morgan, and Richard Jimenez from WestCare. And you may wonder, why do we have two different firms here? Well, I'm going to tell you that. The main components of the agreement with Armor contains these provisions. The initial term of the contract will commence March 1, 2014 through December 31st, 2016. That's why you have what it basically is a 10-month budget and a 2015 and 2016 budget projections in your contract. And there are two one-year renewals for 2017 and 2018. So this is a long-term contract that you're getting yourselves into. This agreement incorporates the plan that we outlined in the RFP that provides for 22.83 FTEs to provide inmate medical services both in the jail and in the infirmary sobering center. And this staffing plan contemplates an increase in the number of physician hours, registered nurses, LPNs, and clinicians that we currently have on staff in order to staff the proposed change that we plan on doing for inmate medical, the infirmary sobering center concept, and I will remind you that the budget also includes as a separate line item 5 COs that will provide security in that infirmary sobering center. This plan also incorporates, staff of 6.2 FTEs for the detox. And as you know, we anticipate with the opening of a sobering center that we will have a much lower clientele level in the detox center, which will be for those persons who we know truly want to go through the detox program, and of course then to meet the administrative rules required by the state to maintain our accreditation. And that WestCare is a nonprofit organization that is subcontracting with Armor to provide that service. So that's why we have them, a representative from WestCare here. And that I want you to remember, though, our contract is with Armor, so there's only one contract, and they will be subcontracting with WestCare for the residential detox. This agreement is a pass-through, and it's a pass-through cost, and the budget that we have up here for 2014 and 2015 and 16 is the budget estimate of what those pass-through costs are. And we anticipate those costs being in the form of course, personnel, pharmacy, off-site medical treatment, and others. The document also contains the management fee for both detox and for the inmate medical contract, and you can see by contract we've been able to at least control the cost of the management fee by 1.4% for 2015, which is the same rate that we've been recently notified by the state that that's all we get for a CPI adjustment, 2% for 2016, 1.5% for 2017, and 1.5% for 2018 and beyond. The contract also contains a cost provision that you'll see on the bottom of Exhibit B that outlines the cost for the electronic medical record system or implementation of that. However, the contract language does tie in a successful conversion and interface with our current jail management system. And once that happens to the satisfaction of the jail and Armor, then we can start releasing those payments. Contract contains the standard provisions relating to termination. And of course, I know what was important to you this go around too was to take a look at both the indemnification and legal action provisions of the contract, and those have been gone over by person with a fine-tooth comb, as is to be expected. And that, again, we have attached a copy. Can you make this bigger for me? Is that possible? Well, I can just read some of the thing here. Our anticipated cost of implementation of the contract for the 10 months of 2014, there you go, just scroll on down, for 2014 is $1,997,713 for the jail and $364,176 for the detox center, and that for a grand total of $2,361,889. And that, as you can see, we've estimated what those costs will be and have incorporated in the budget for 2015, and that a full year of operation is $2,760,309 for both, and then in 2016, $2,814,754. As a comparison, just so that you got an idea of what we might see between for a full year if they were starting in January of this year, the anticipated total contract for 2014, scroll down, if this was a full year, would be $2.37 million. That would have been the total for the jail, as opposed to the 1.9 that it is now, just to give you a good example of where those costs are for each year, if we were doing a full year. So, the FY20, are there any questions on the on Exhibit B? I want to remind the Commission that, because of the timing of our budget, and that our FY 2014 budget was, of course, adopted back in September, before we had our proposals out and before we knew and that we would have to, we'd be looking at a new contract. We currently in the 2014 budget have a total of $2,197,020 allocated both in the Sheriff's Department and the jail for detox and for inmate medical. We may have to do some shifting around, but we would recommend that, much like what you did this year, we not look at any kind of supplement until we get towards year end and see how the total operations of the jail and that in the Sheriff's Department shake out. As you know, that worked out extremely well this year when we looked at the contract for both of them and were able to fund it with a very minor supplement by the time we were done with the budget. So I also included for you in the back of your packet and that a PowerPoint presentation that we received from both WestCare and Armor that we reviewed as we were going through the not only to award the contract, but to also give you some background as to why we felt the services being brought forward by Armor and WestCare best fit the needs of our community. I can tell you, at least from the detox side, and that the credentials and the experience that WestCare brings to the residential detox program looks very impressive indeed. And our reference checks with inmate medical that Armor provided has been outstanding. And that's so we're confident in recommending signature of this contract. And with that, I'll stop. And if Carol has anything that she'd like to say, or any members of the WestCare team or Armor team or Warden Romer have to add to the discussion, we're here to answer any questions that you have but we would recommend that you authorize the chairman to sign this contract, and we eagerly look forward to them beginning their services. And in fact, that's one of the reasons they're here, is if you approve this, they're going to hit the ground running for recruiting.
Any questions or comments? I would like to also reiterate what Ken said and thank the people who worked many months on this. Ken, as our administrative assistant, takes a lot of weight off our shoulders by all the work he does. But also Mike Milstead, Michelle Boyd, Jeff Gromer, Carol Miller, and Kirsten for all the work that they have done to bring this forward to us and dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's to make sure we have a good contract. I'd also like to thank West Care and Armor Corrections Services for coming and coming to meet the commissioners and to get us started off on the right foot. And we look forward to moving forward with a new contract, a new idea, expanded services, and it doesn't look like it's going to cost us a whole lot more in the first year than it had cost us before, but yet we'll have expanded services. So I think we all look forward to moving forward with a new plan. With that being said, are there any other comments?
Well, are
Kelly.
we going to hear anything from the Armor or the West Care people? I can't even see them with this.
They say they say they don't have anything to say right now.
Okay.
I would question their intelligence from coming from Miami to South Dakota.
Yeah.
It's more passion than intelligence.
Okay, thanks. That shows a true dedication.
Are there any other questions or comments about the contract?
I'd make a motion to have us sign this contract, and I do have a comment, I guess.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
And a second with a comment from Commissioner Barth.
I'm very eager to get this thing going here, and it's great to hear all this wonderful stuff, and I'm from this very respectable search committee, and it's probably just the honeymoon, but we love you guys. I hope that we still love you a couple years from now.
I think we're excited about moving forward with the changes in the detox and the sobering centering, about putting the right people in the right place at the right time and meeting the needs where they need to be in our county. And I think this is a huge step for us, and it's very exciting. So I do have a motion and a second on the table. Any other comments? Commissioner Peckus?
Yes, well, I just noticed that when it comes to armor, it looks like, at least from the presentation that was presented to us on the I believe it was a PowerPoint, it looks like they're a physician-owned group, which is unique because Sioux Falls used to be a physician-owned driven community, but since then we've had both Sanford and Avera basically silo a lot of our medical providers. So it is encouraging to see a physician-owned group coming back into the community. And then also, it looks like, at least with their partnership, now is that a separate organization altogether, or is that something that's also physician-owned from Armor?
West Care is a nonprofit organization.
Who do you want to identify yourself to, please?
Richard Jimenez, Senior Vice President, West Care. West Care is a nonprofit organization. We've been in business 40 years. We're in a variety of states, which in this partnership is kind of unique in that we're eligible to apply for federal funding through the Bureau of Justice Second Chance grants. So we look at this as a unique opportunity for us to come into your community and develop programs. We're currently in Wyoming, where we have 5 prison sites where we do inmate behavioral health services, and we're involved in a reentry commission over there. So thank you for welcoming us to your community. I was here a couple weeks ago. I'm originally from California, and so it was enlightening to be in 25 below degrees.
Sorry about that.
So I survived and I came back, so you might want to question my intelligence. But yeah, hey, we're glad to be here. And one of the things we've been partnering with, or we're partnering with Armor in Washoe County in Nevada. So we're looking at this as goals and plans for the future. I was intrigued by the jail sobering concept linked with detox and community. I see it as kind of maybe a model that we can work together and create for other states and jurisdictions to look at. Sioux Falls, Minnehaha has many of the same problems that other cities have. in terms of serial public inebriants, folks that are cycling in and out of the jails, and we hope to work with Armor and you folks to try to come up with some solutions.
Thank you for providing that clarification. You really did. Thank you.
Commissioner Kelly?
Well, speaking as liaison to the detox, we're excited about what's coming up because for too long the detox has been a place where it's a good bed for some of these people and have no intention of going into recovery. So now we can concentrate on those people that are truly looking to change their lives, and you're going to be a great help with us in that. You know, one of the problems that still is out there is that the time to get into particularly a state long-term program, recovery program, is still way too long. They have too few beds, and so I hope that we'll sober up some people also, and sobering center can be their bed overnight, and then they're back on the street.
Well, we operate in custody programs, community programs, we have residential programs, so we're familiar with citing programs, getting certified by whatever states that we're in, and it may be that we look to develop other care for folks after they leave here. I think one of the things is that folks that come into jails or our programs will really rise to what our expectations are in most cases, unless they're just unable to do that. So if we set our expectations for detox, that if you're going to be in detox, we would like you to, as soon as you're stabilized, participate in some kind of activity, you know, take some education classes, you know, whatever time allows, right? And we'll work with Carol and the sheriff and warden to develop that. If our expectation is come in and 3 hots in the cot, then that, you know, I hate to put it that simple, but that's kind of what we're going to get, right? So I think it as two organizations that believe in that people can change and will improve, that we can work to do that. Waiting lists are always a challenge. There may be other things we can do. Drop-in centers, you know, day reporting centers. In California, I worked on some day reporting projects where we diverted people from jail altogether and just had them go to day reporting centers, provided other services. So I think there's a lot of things we can look at.
Good.
Excuse me, I'll just close. I'm Don Morgan, Director of Program Development for Armor. When we received the RFP initially, we had just been working on our partnership with WestCare, and immediately we identified this as an opportunity for our partnership. But more importantly, that we want to express to you is our job here is to make your good idea work. That idea is written in the RFP, and I'm really proud to work for a company that bends our rules, finds the partners we need to make the programs work for the people who dream them and for the people who pay for them. And so it's going to be an honor to work for you here and accomplish that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. Any more questions or comments? We do have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously to sign the agreement for inmate health care detox services between Minnehaha County and Armor Corrections Health Services. Welcome on board. Thank you.
Item number 17 is consider a resolution to adjust voting precinct boundaries for VP 3, VP 5, and VP 15 within the city of Brandon. Bob Litz.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commission. Bob Litz from the Auditor's Office, and this morning, what I'm bringing before you is a result of Brandon, the city of Brandon, deciding to bust up their voting locations into 3 separate places. For as long as I've been down here, and some time before that, they've always met in the fire hall. The fire hall during the big elections tends to get very congested. The parking is really tough. And when you have that many people in one location, the temptation to go into the wrong line is always there. And after hours or after the work lets out, 4 or 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, there gets to be some pretty good lines out there. And so Brandon precipitated this change, and when we found out they were going to do that, I went out there to look at the other 2 locations. They're going to keep one location at the fire station, which has always been there. The other one that the city has occasionally had elections at is down at the City Hall Council Chambers, and then the other one would be the Brandon Municipal Golf Course. And all 3 of them are ADA compatible, and they have enough room and parking, in my estimation, for doing a big election. We went and looked at the numbers here, and they're all within that 10% number that the census dictated, or didn't dictate, but suggested that we change. If you get over 10% of the population in a precinct, they suggest that you start breaking it off or looking for places to put those people at. And if you can see that VP3, if we do this change, will have approximately a net of 2172. Now, I put down the 3,659 voters, but that also includes the Split Rock Township, which is not in the city limits. They will vote at that location. They will vote at Split Rock. They're part of the Brandon group. They vote at Split Rock during the big election, but they're not part of the city election. So I wanted to differentiate that. That's why we have more voters at VP3. But this would be our new net. There would be 2172. And then VP3 would be the same as Ward 3. Location would be the Brandon Municipal Golf Course. VP5 would have approximately 1,949 voters, and VP5 would be the same as Ward 1. And that location is going to be the Brandon City Hall Council Chambers. And VP15 will have approximately 2,159 voters. VP15 would be the same as Ward 2, and their location would be the Brandon Fire Hall. Now, the difference between the 2172 and the 2159, and then VP5, which has 1949 voters, it's been suggested by the city that their growth is going to be stronger in their Ward number 1, which is the blue area, going forward for the future. So as that fills in with houses and stuff, they think that number is going to go up a little bit. These deviances with registered voters are well within the tolerances prescribed by the state, and maps of the proposed changes are attached along with the resolution. Action today that I'm requesting is approval of this resolution.
Are there any questions for Auditor Litz? Commissioner Barth?
So, Bob, are they going to have their city council people sync up with these districts as well then? Is that...
That's the idea. They're changing their location for their wards to vote at, and this way our precincts would be the same as those wards.
Isn't the law that it has to be 5% difference between the biggest one and the lowest one?
I thought it was 10. Now, it's been 2 weeks since I went through that and pulled that stuff down, and I'd be glad to go back and get that information for you, Commissioner, if you'd like. I thought it was a 10.
I guess I'm not sure.
Is it a 5, Mr. Peckus? I saw you saying something.
I got to look it up. Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
It seems to me that at one of our workshops in Pierre that Sarah Frankenstein, who's an expert on this type of redistricting stuff, had a comment on that. Mr. McFarland, no memory of it?
I try not to interfere with
Bob, would we be causing any trouble if we waited a week?
No, and I can get you that information on those. You're looking for the tolerances
as
to where you start
right.
moving things out. Yes. No,
I guess I would
that.
make a motion to defer action for 1 week to check.
I have a motion to defer action and a second to defer action for 1 week.
That's no reflection on your research on this. I'm happy.
And I debated whether to bring that forward again with all this other information, and I went downstairs earlier to find that out, and we couldn't find it. We believe it's in the administrative rules at this point.
Unless our state's attorney has been able to.
I'm gonna need a little time.
It's probably
I would
federal.
also ask, their city attorney is Lisa Marceau.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
she can look it up faster than the speed of light. She's probably already looked it up, but, I would just call Lisa and just tell her that we had that question.
I have a motion and a second to defer action on the resolution to adjust the voting precincts in Brandon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same
Thank
sign.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Bob. We'll
Bob.
see you
Get that
next week.
information.
Item 18 is an update and status report of the 89th legislative session on bills that impact Minnehaha County. Robert Wilson.
Morning, Commissioners. Robert Wilson of the Commission Office. Last week when I briefed you on this item, I told you I had very few bills at that point to discuss with you, but there were going to be a number of additional bills coming, and that is exactly what we've seen. We saw a good flurry towards the end of last week. I'm going to just go through a summary of a few that I've identified. If you'd like me to expand on any of those, I'm happy to do so. And if you see any others on my briefing memo that you'd like me to talk about, I can also do that as well. One that we talked about last week, just briefly, I think it had just been introduced at that point, was that would increase the reimbursement from the State Department of Corrections back to counties for detainment of parole violators. And that was going to move that reimbursement amount from $50 up to $70. There was a hearing on that last week. It was passed out of House Appropriations 9-0. During that testimony for that bill, the DOC estimated that the yearly financial impact of the state would be $135,000. Talking with Sheriff Milstead, the difference that we would see in Minnehaha County because of that higher rate would be about $16,500 a year based on last year's numbers. So that is would be a helpful change that would, if it did indeed happen. And I know it was mentioned during committee hearings that even that 70 mark would not fully meet the costs of Minnehaha County, but it was seen as an effort to go in the right direction. So that's certainly one we'll watch. Another one is House Bill 1065, and this would remove the application fee for concealed weapons permit. Again, working with the sheriff, that would be a change of $11,000 for the county on negative side that we would have collected last year from that fee. That obviously if this is a cost-free application process that we would no longer collect. That's a split between the county and the Secretary of State's office. $7 of every permit goes to Secretary of State's, $3 goes to the county.
Who's the sponsor on that?
That one, I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you. Betty Olson. Betty Olson is the sponsor on that one. House Bill 1066 would make a change that it would be legal for the holder of a concealed carry permit to have a firearm in the county courthouse or in the state capitol. And that bill is up for hearing this morning in House Local Government, and I certainly will keep an eye on that, and it'll be a big part of our update next week. 1096 makes a change on allowing campaign signs on privately owned buildings that are used for polling places. You have, state law has the 100-foot radius of the entrance, but apparently, as I understand the bill, that if it's a privately owned business beyond that 100-foot area and the building owner elects to allow campaign signs outside of that radius, they're able to do so now. This bill would change that and not allow any campaign signs on that building. Question?
I just have a question about that. So if they're not allowing, there is a 100-foot restriction already in statute, and so people can put signs within 100 feet, but now if it's no? I mean, outside of the 100-foot boundary, yes. But then if the private person wants to do it outside of the 100-foot boundary, he can't? Am I understanding that backwards?
Currently, if the building, and again, as I understand that this will be up for a hearing, but hasn't had a hearing scheduled yet, but for a privately owned business, or a building, the owner of that building can make his own determination, his or her own determination, that outside of that 100-foot radius, whether or not they want to allow campaign signs on the building. This would make that change, that there would be no campaign signs allowed on the building that is the location of a polling place.
But if it's public property, can they stick signs outside that 100-foot restricted area?
On a public building, I would.
So I'm just asking if it's
on-
making it the same or if it's making it different. So maybe I'm totally confusing this.
No, for example, and I can just throw out an example, like Hillcrest, they don't want to have any signs out at Hillcrest, so we would get a letter from the auditor's office saying that these specific locations don't want to have signs. If you put a sign up, they're probably going to pitch them. So we're just cautioned. This actually goes ahead and allows them to do that by law, that they can go ahead and make that designation as opposed to making it either-or situation. And we have very few locations in Minnehaha County that aren't public buildings. But public buildings, you're still going to be allowed to put up your campaign signs.
And the
At least that's
private
what I
owner could do it or could not, but it would give him the right
This
to
would
not.
prohibit, the private owner from allowing campaign signs. They wouldn't be able to allow it. That's my understanding. Right now, they have the choice. So if we had a private location that was being used as a polling location, don't waste your time driving your car over there to plant your sign because it's not going to be allowed. That's my understanding.
That's kind of my understanding, and my only question would be, why are they differentiating between public and private property? Because I don't know that that's fair, but.
And as that bill goes to hearing, we will take a listen to that and include that in the information of the sort of the background of why the bill was brought forward and where opponents and supporters line up in viewing this one.
I can hazard a guess is that if people put signs up and they left them up and they never came to collect them, they would have to have their staff go out and pull signs.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't pull signs and they demanded to have the candidates come and pull the signs, inevitably that could result in a ticket from our state's attorney's office for failure to go ahead and police up your campaign signs. So, that I can understand that concern.
I just think it should be their choice whether they put the signs up or not. But I guess we don't need to have that debate, so I'll let you move on.
It is a choice. This allows a choice.
I think it disallows the choice. They have a choice right now, just like public places do, but it will disallow the choice of private citizens, which we'll let them discuss that, and we will move on, Robert. Thank you.
Absolutely. House Bill 35, and this is a bill, in listening to committee testimony last week, that came about after the ice storms last spring. Apparently, on that Tuesday of the ice storm, there were a number of municipal and school district elections, and some of these organizations encountered great difficulty in holding those elections, and the bill says that in elections other than primary and general elections, if there's an emergency that comes up that makes them unable to vote for some reason, then that voting on that particular day will be suspended for 1 week and resume the following Tuesday at the same time that it was suspended, or if it never opened, would open at the same time that it had been intended to open, as a way to move forward if there is something that would truly be recognized as an emergency in a case where voting could not move forward at that time.
It's nice to see our legislature doing something to encourage voter turnout.
Senate Bill 75 would prevent local governments from creating restrictions on local or on a specific breed of dog. See a number of ordinances around the country. I don't believe we've seen any in the state that identify pit bulls or other breeds. We have an animal control statute ordinance in the county, but it makes no mention of breeds of dogs, so it would not really have a direct effect. I thought it was more or less an interesting bill when I saw that one drop in.
There are some interesting ordinances out there regarding pounds of dog. We actually have city ordinances down in Lincoln County that will prohibit a certain exception beyond the pound of dog you're allowed to have. Because I know Ron Parsons actually litigated that one
down in, I think it was Centerville. They weren't allowing something like a certain over 250 pound of dog per household.
Guess you got to keep your dog on a diet.
Yeah, so it's
That's
an
a
interesting
horse.
case. But anyway, he might actually talk to you about it if you want to give him a call. That was a while ago.
As the owner of a Great Dane, that's quite interesting to me. The last bill that I was going to look at was in Senate Bill 83, and I've already shared this with Register of Deeds Julie Risty, but an act to authorize townships and counties to impose real estate transfer fee. And I think the point, this is a similar bill that came to one that came last year, and the Register of Deeds office is quite interested in this because this would allow organized townships to collect a transfer fee on property, on real estate sales. And that's one they battled last year, and I'm talking to her just briefly last week. It looks like one that they will oppose, may oppose again this year. She had some initial concerns when I shared with her that the bill has been introduced. Again, I had a few others that I listed on the memo. If there's any others of those that you'd like to talk about, happy to, but I would expect we'll have a few more bills drop in this week, and some of these that are on the sheet will start to move through the committee process.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Peckus?
I just want to go on the record that I am not surprised that Robert has a Great Dane. Is anybody here surprised that Robert has a Great Dane? Anybody? No? Okay, just double check.
There's no weight limit on commissioners yet.
Note to self.
All right, any other questions for Robert? Thanks, Robert. Move on.
Item number 19 is Minnehaha County Commissioner Liaison Reports.
Does anyone have any liaison reports? Commissioner Barth had a brief
Just
report.
quickly, last night at our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which was the first one with the new Commissioner Bill Even, we had an application for a bulk fuel depot in the Brower edition of Hartford, which is just south of the interstate. And the roads are so crummy that we said no. Adding additional traffic there, and they'd already put in 5 bulk fuel tanks without a building permit yet. But it cannot handle this kind of traffic. I talked to Shannon in our highway department. He said that a road of this type should have a 12-inch engineered mat with 4 inches of asphalt on top of it. And right now they're dragging mud out onto our highway, and it's just a mud track. And there's this little area needs to be brought up to snuff. They had a road district that wasted their money benefiting 1 or 2 residents. Not residents, they're all businesses there, but certainly it's a mess, and it's been a mess for a long time. And I think our economic development people need to go and see if they can assist in some way.
Commissioner Kelly?
Jeff, 3 or 4 years ago, we addressed this problem, if I remember correctly. Is the road district just within that development area?
I believe so.
And I thought there was an agreement to comply with what we needed, and apparently nothing's been done on that? Or?
That's what the other property owners there are saying, that, they're doing their own stuff, like dragging the I-beam across the road to try to fill in the potholes, and, dumping rubbish and gravel and whatever pothole that they can to try to keep it up. But the pictures that were here this morning, or there that last night, we didn't go into the morning last night, but it shows to be just an absolute mess. And
Commissioner Peckus?
Well, if they are a road district, that actually is interesting because that creates a political subdivision. And so, the trustees of the road district actually are then beholden to the other members of that road district community to go ahead, and if they needed to, they could bring a writ of mandamus to compel them to take action, to go ahead and get that road mat completed. And if necessary, they could go ahead and do an opt-out and necessary to raise the funds. But, the reality is that there are some legal recourse that they can take to go ahead. And if I'm wrong, the state's attorney will tell me I'm wrong. But, they are a subdivision.
I forgot to tell him about a writ of mandamus last night.
Bill could do it, he's a lawyer.
What is a writ of mandamus?
It's too long to
I can
explain, we'll
tell
talk
you,
about it
but-
later.
I'll be
Commissioner Barth will tell you later.
I can tell you that as public officers, we are all beholden to the common law writs, and that includes like a writ of mandamus, a writ of prohibition. And, we have to be respectful of that, and as public officers, that's one of the reasons why we're also bonded. So that's our requirement, to statutorily follow the requirements of our elected offices. So.
Any other liaison reports? That, we'll go on to new business. Is there any new business? I do have two that I would like to just bring forward. One is, you all got a letter from Ken saying the CPI for this year was that for taxes payable in 2015 is 1.4. I just wanted that to be publicly out there. Not all people were aware of that at the meeting we were at last night. That's going to make next year's budgeting, again, an extreme challenge when we have expenses that surpass that 1.4 increase every year, and we're supposed to make a budget on something when we have insufficient funds again. The other new business I wanted to talk about just briefly was that the Chamber Executive Board last night met with the governor to discuss the bank franchise tax. If you watched his State of the State address, he did talk about some changes to the bank franchise tax that he's proposing. He's concerned about the volatility of that tax, and he wants to modernize the 1977 appropriations law. And the bill that he's proposing, that if it passed, it would end up affecting the 9 interstate banks. I know we've asked a lot of times, what does the bank franchise tax consist of? And I guess I was always told it was a secret, but he did tell us what it was. It consists of a formula that is the property and the payroll and the receipts from those banks, and they roll that into a formula to come up with how much is going to be paid out. They'd like to implement an alternative minimum tax on those 9 interstate banks to make up the difference that we've lost in the last few years. He did say that there might be a minimal impact of increase to counties. This is basically to fund the state, and they were trying to look for a $10 million hole to fill in that changes the way the receipts have been collected because of internet and other ways that we do banking nowadays. There was a lot of discussion around the table. A lot of questions were raised, some possible negative impacts if we went forward with this. And I think that the governor and his staff will be looking closely at some of the concerns and questions that were brought forward, and I think it was a very good discussion. So we will just be watching to see where that bill goes with the bank franchise tax. It not only affects the county, but the municipalities, the cities, and the school districts too. Although he said our impact would be minimal. That being said, we've also been losing significant dollars from our bank franchise tax through the years, and we've had to make up those losses too. There was another thing, because of the way it has happened now, we have the unclaimed funds, unclaimed property funds, which really has been kind of a windfall to the state of South Dakota with having those 9 interstate banks come to us. And so there was some questions about how changing the law might infect some of those unclaimed properties. So it was a good meeting. Any other new business? Is there any old business? With that being said, we will adjourn into executive session for litigation discussion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.